Hi everyone. So in this video, we're looking at 5.3, that is on question 5 from assignment 2. So in 5.3, we're asked to find f of x times g of x and also find the domain of f of x times g of x. So we are given that f of x is equals to the square root of 3 minus x, and we're given that g of x is equals to the square root of x squared minus x. Now let's find f of x times g of x. So f times g, this is equals to f of x times g of x. This is equals to, we know that our f of x is the square root of 3 minus x, and our g of x is the square root of x squared minus 1. Right? Now, we want to find, so we found that, so this is actually the expression for f of x times g of x. So now we want to find the domain of this expression over here. Now, to find the domain of those two expressions, we first find the individual domains, right? So let's find the domain of f. So the domain of f is x is an element of real number such that whatever is under the square root, in this case, what is under the square root? It's 3 minus x, such that 3 minus x should be greater or equals to 0. So meaning that everything under the square root should be greater or equals to 0 for f of x to be defined. So from the previous two videos, we found that this is actually equals to x is an element of real number such that x is less or equals to 3. Now let's find the domain of G. So the domain of G is equals to x such that, what is G? G is the square root of x squared minus 1. Now, for g of x to be defined, everything under the square root should be greater or equals to 0, meaning that x squared minus 1 should be greater or equals to 0. So now this is equals to x such that x is less or equals to -1, or x is greater or equals to 1. Now, one can ask, how did we find these two domains? Now, to understand how we found these two domains, if you don't know how to find the two domains, go to the video on 5.1. There, I will actually explain how then we find these two domains. And the two previous videos before 5.1 video actually explains how to find, how to solve such inequalities. Yes. So in the two videos for the discussion classes actually shows how to find such inequalities. If you then don't understand how to find this answer over here. Now, so we found the domain of f of x and we found the domain of g of x. So now to find the domain of f of x times g of x. So the domain of f of x times g of x is equals to, according to our notes, it says that the domain of f of x times g of x is actually equals to the intersection of the two individual domains, meaning it's the intersection of the domain of f. This sign means intersection, and the domain of G. Now, if you have watched the previous videos, you will notice that this is the same as the domain of f plus G, which is also equals to the domain of f minus G. So meaning that from 5.1 and 5.2, then the domain of f of x times G will be, sorry about that, the domain will be the set. Okay, let me erase it properly. So the domain will be x is an element of real number such that x is less or equals to -1, or x is between what? X is between 1 and 3. So what to note here is that the domain of f of x times g of x is the same as the domain of f of x plus g of x, is the same as the domain of f of x minus g of x. which all of them are equal to the intersection of f of x and g, and sorry, which are all equals to the intersection of the two individual domain, meaning that the intersection of the domain of f of x and the domain of g of x. So this is how we actually solve 5.3 of question 5 from assignment 2. Thank you. Bye.